Alex wiped the sweat from his brow as he crouched over the exposed circuits of a plasma generator. The hum of energy coursing through the generator was deafening in the quiet corner of the maintenance bay. On this distant planet, humans were few, mostly engineers and traders, but Alex had proven himself over and over. Still, nothing in his experience had prepared him for the sudden summons he received that morning. A royal messenger had arrived, moving with rigid precision. His armor gleamed, a dark purple that shimmered under the dim lights, and his eyes, large and luminescent, studied Alex with careful judgment. "Engineer Alex," he said in a voice both commanding and curious, "the Queen requests your presence immediately." Alex's stomach tightened. He had repaired starships, weapons, and energy systems, but he had never been called to a royal palace. Humans here were respected for their skill, yes, but rarely trusted near the Queen. Still, something about the urgency in the messenger's tone left no room for hesitation. Within an hour, Alex found himself standing in the grand hallway of the alien palace. Towering columns stretched high above, carved with symbols that glowed faintly, their meaning lost to him but their beauty impossible to ignore. Servants and advisors passed him with a mix of curiosity and wariness. Whispers followed him, and Alex could feel the weight of dozens of alien eyes on his human frame. The throne room itself was breathtaking. Light poured through massive crystal windows, scattering across polished floors and reflecting off golden accents that adorned the walls. And at the center, sitting on a raised platform, was the Queen. Lyra's presence was commanding. Her armor, though damaged, still radiated authority. Her shoulders were broad, her posture perfect, and her eyes, emerald green and piercing, locked on Alex the moment he stepped inside. Even from a distance he could sense her energy, sharp, intelligent, and unyielding. "You are Alex," she said, her voice melodic but strong. "The humans have done well in the outer colonies, yet I hear none have ever touched royal armor. Are you certain you can repair mine?" Alex swallowed. "Your Majesty, I've repaired far more complex systems than armor." "I'll do my best." Lyra studied him for a long moment. Then, almost imperceptibly, the corners of her mouth lifted. "Very well, begin immediately. Do not fail me." He was led to a platform where her armor had been carefully placed. Unlike typical battle armor, this suit was alive with ancient design. Layers of alloy interlaced with alien crystals, delicate etchings running along the plates. It was almost sacred. Even Alex, a trained engineer, could feel the weight of history in his hands. As he examined the damage, he realized why none had succeeded before. The armor wasn't merely broken. It had been weakened in multiple points, some beyond simple repair. But Alex's human ingenuity often thrived where others relied solely on tradition. He began by analyzing the structure, testing the alloys, and formulating a plan. Hours passed. He worked with careful precision, using tools the Queen's engineers had never imagined. He melted and reforged metals, recalibrated the energy channels within the suit, and replaced the worn crystals with substitutes that matched in composition and resonance. Every now and then, Lyra would observe quietly, arms crossed, her emerald eyes studying his movements. "This alloy," she said after a few hours, pointing at a section Alex had just soldered, "it should not bend so easily. Are you certain it will hold in combat?" Alex glanced up, wiping a streak of grease from his cheek. "Yes, Your Majesty, I've tested it. It will do more than hold. It will enhance your agility." Lyra tilted her head. She had never had an engineer speak with such confidence about her royal armor. Normally, her engineers bowed, hesitated, or deferred to her advisors. This human, he spoke as if he understood the armor's essence, not just its mechanics. By nightfall, the last piece of the armor clicked into place. Alex stepped back, exhausted but satisfied. The armor gleamed as if it had been reborn, sharper, sleeker, and more formidable than before. Lyra rose from her throne and walked forward, examining the suit. She reached out, touching a gauntlet and then her chest plate, her fingers tracing the patterns Alex had painstakingly restored. "This is extraordinary," she murmured. Then suddenly, a small, unexpected smile curved her lips. "You have done well, Alex." "Perhaps you are my husband," Alex blinked. The word struck him like a thunderbolt. Did she mean it seriously? Was it a jest? In the alien culture, titles and relationships could be complicated. He swallowed hard, forcing a calm expression. I am honored, Your Majesty," he said cautiously, "but I think the armor's performance speaks more than words." Lyra laughed lightly, a sound that was both musical and commanding. "Perhaps, yet I do not laugh often at humans. You are different." That night Alex was assigned a small room within the palace. Though simple, it was comfortable, with views of the alien city sprawled below. Sleep, however, did not come easily. Thoughts of the Queen, her sudden words, and the unspoken tension of being the only human who had touched her armor kept him awake. The next morning the Queen summoned him again. This time, not for repairs, but for observation. She led him to a training hall where warriors clashed with swords and plasma blades. "I want to see your perspective," she said. "How does a human understand combat?" Alex watched carefully, noting the patterns, weaknesses, and tendencies of the alien warriors. He suggested small adjustments, stances, angles, timing, and to his surprise, Lyra's warriors began to respond with improved efficiency. Lyra observed quietly, occasionally nodding, her eyes reflecting both approval and curiosity. As days passed, their interactions became routine but charged with unspoken questions. Lyra would ask about Earth, about human customs, and about Alex's life before coming to this distant planet. In return, Alex asked about her responsibilities, her battles, and the pressures of leading a vast army. They shared quiet moments of learning and laughter, and slowly, the walls between human and alien began to thin. One evening, after a long day of armor inspections and tactical discussions, Lyra approached him privately. She removed her helmet, revealing the soft lines of her face, the green glow of her eyes more striking up close. "Alex," she said, voice gentle, "you have done more than repair armor. You have changed how I see humans. Your courage, your mind, it is unlike anything I have encountered." Alex felt a warmth in his chest. Compliments from a queen were rare, and from one such as Lyra rarer still. "Your Majesty, I am simply doing my best," he said humbly. She smiled almost shyly, though the fire in her eyes remained. "And yet your best has earned my respect." More than respect, perhaps something more. The palace guards outside shifted nervously, unsure of what they were witnessing. Alex remained calm, though his heart raced. The bond forming between them was unusual, delicate, and dangerous in a world where humans were seen as outsiders. Yet, there was a connection, unspoken but undeniable, that neither the Queen nor Alex could ignore. That night as he returned to his quarters, Alex thought about the Queen's words. Husband. Was it ceremonial, a joke, or something deeper? He didn't know yet, but one thing was certain: his life had changed forever. The human engineer who came to repair armor had stepped into a world of politics, intrigue, and unexpected emotions, and he would have to navigate it carefully. As he drifted to sleep, he realized that he no longer feared the alien world around him. With knowledge, courage, and a steady heart, he could survive. But surviving was no longer enough. To thrive here, in the shadow of a queen who had called him husband, he would have to prove himself, not just as an engineer, but as someone worthy of the trust and perhaps the affection of the most powerful being in the galaxy. The stars outside his window shimmered, distant and cold, but they no longer intimidated him. He had faced challenges before, and he would face more. For now, though, he allowed himself a small smile. Tomorrow he would continue his work, but tonight he let himself imagine the impossible, a human standing not behind but beside a queen. And perhaps in that impossible bond there was hope, for him, for Lyra, and for the future of two worlds that had never truly understood each other. The morning light filtered through the crystal windows of the palace, casting patterns across the polished floors. Alex stood near the balcony, observing the bustling city below. Hover vehicles moved like swarms of fireflies, and alien citizens hurried along elevated walkways. Yet despite the energy of the city, Alex's mind was focused entirely on the palace and, more specifically, on Queen Lyra. Since repairing her armor, his days had become a blend of engineering, observation, and cautious diplomacy. The Queen had not stopped calling him husband, though he still wasn't certain whether it was a jest, a ceremonial term, or a sincere declaration. Whatever it was, it had shifted the dynamic between them, making each encounter more charged and unpredictable. Today, Lyra summoned him to the training halls again. This time, she was not in armor but in a flowing ceremonial robe that shimmered like liquid emerald. Her presence was commanding even without the battle plates, and Alex felt the familiar tightening in his chest as he approached. "You have been observing the warriors for a week now," she said, her tone measured. "Tell me what you see." Alex adjusted the strap of his tool belt. "Your Majesty, the warriors are strong, but some rely too heavily on tradition. Their formations are rigid. A few small adjustments, slightly different angles, shifts in stance, could improve reaction time and balance." Lyra raised an eyebrow. "And these adjustments, you are confident they will work in real combat?" "I am," Alex said. "I've tested variations in the simulator and I've worked with smaller squads on timing drills. The results are consistent." Lyra stepped closer, studying him intently. "You think like a strategist, Alex, but your thinking is human." She paused, almost as if weighing her words. "Different, yet effective." Alex nodded. "Sometimes a fresh perspective helps. Patterns we see as unchangeable may have alternatives others overlook." She tilted her head, and for a moment the weight of her authority softened. "Perhaps you are right. Very well, we will test your methods today." The warriors assembled in formation, armor glinting under the bright lights of the hall. Alex demonstrated his adjustments, explaining each subtle movement. The warriors, at first skeptical, followed his instructions, and slowly the rhythm of their formation changed. Movements became sharper, faster, and more fluid. Even the most experienced soldiers were visibly impressed. Lyra watched silently, then nodded. "Interesting. You have potential not only as an engineer but as a teacher and strategist." Alex felt a flicker of pride but remained humble. "I am merely trying to help, Your Majesty." A few days later, a diplomatic message arrived from a neighboring planet, requesting a meeting to discuss a potential alliance. The Council of Advisors insisted Lyra should attend alone, citing protocol and the unusual presence of a human in palace affairs. Lyra, however, surprised them all by requesting Alex accompany her, not as an engineer, but as a representative of human ingenuity and diplomacy. During the journey aboard her sleek cruiser, Alex studied the holographic displays of nearby star systems. Lyra, sitting beside him, asked questions about human technology, communication methods, and culture. Unlike her advisors, she seemed genuinely curious, not merely evaluating him for usefulness. When they arrived, the council from the neighboring planet regarded Alex with skepticism. Their leader, a tall being with cobalt blue skin and multiple eyes, whispered something to his aides and shot Alex a sharp glare. Lyra's response was simple but firm. "This human stands with me," she said. "He has proven his skills, judgment, and loyalty. You will treat him as you would any honored guest of my palace." The council members bristled but accepted her authority. Alex, though tense, maintained his composure. Throughout the negotiations, he offered suggestions on trade routes, resource management, and defense strategies, often blending human practicality with insights gleaned from Lyra's warrior culture. Each suggestion was met with surprise and, eventually, respect. By the time they returned to the palace, whispers about Alex's growing influence had spread throughout the royal court. Some advisors were wary, concerned that Lyra's fascination with a human could undermine her authority. Others were curious, intrigued by the results of his guidance. Lyra, however, seemed unconcerned by gossip. She approached Alex privately in her chambers, where the soft glow of the city lights painted the room in shades of green and gold. "You have done more than I expected," she said, voice quiet but firm. "Not only have you repaired my armor, but you have strengthened my warriors, impressed foreign leaders, and changed how I view humans entirely." Alex swallowed. "Your Majesty, I am honored." "I only hope I have not overstepped," she smiled, a rare warmth in her expression. "Perhaps you have not. Yet you must understand, few humans ever receive this level of trust. Few are ever called what I call you." He hesitated, heart beating faster. "Husband." Lyra's eyes met his, unwavering. "Yes, I called you husband not lightly, Alex. Your courage, ingenuity, and integrity, they are qualities I respect deeply. I see in you what I rarely see in my own kind." The words struck Alex in a way he could not ignore. He had repaired armor, advised warriors, and assisted in diplomacy. Yet the personal weight of this acknowledgement was heavier than any task he had faced. Over the following weeks, Alex became a fixture in the palace, moving between engineering workshops, strategy rooms, and ceremonial events. Lyra often invited him to accompany her on patrols, not as a soldier, but as a technical advisor. Together, they observed training exercises, evaluated equipment, and planned defenses. Despite the growing bond, challenges remained. Some palace advisors remained skeptical of the human influence, whispering doubts about his loyalty and intentions. Others questioned the queen herself, wondering why she would place trust in someone outside her species. During one particularly tense council session, a senior advisor voiced concerns. "Your Majesty, this human is skilled, yes, but he is unpredictable. Can we risk our strategy and reputation on someone so untested?" Lyra did not flinch. "Alex has proven himself more than any of you," she said, her voice cutting through the room. "He understands our technology, our tactics, and our needs. His perspective complements ours. His loyalty is unquestionable." The advisor opened his mouth to protest further, but Lyra raised a hand. "Enough. If you cannot trust him, then step aside. I make the decisions for this palace and my people. That includes whom I trust." The room fell silent. Even the doubters understood that challenging her in this moment would not be wise. Alex, standing quietly to the side, felt both the weight of responsibility and the growing sense that he belonged here, despite being human. One evening, after a long day of strategy planning and armor adjustments, Lyra invited Alex to join her in the palace gardens. The gardens were expansive, filled with alien flora that glowed softly under the moonlight. A gentle breeze carried the scent of blossoms, and soft water from fountains created a soothing rhythm. "You have adapted well," Lyra said, walking beside him. "You do not fear this place, its customs, or its expectations. You move through it with confidence, yet humility." Alex glanced at her, unsure how to respond. "I do my best to learn and to understand, Your Majesty. This world is very different from mine, yet I respect it deeply." Lyra stopped and faced him. "Respect is not enough. What matters is courage. And in that you exceed many who were born here." Alex felt a warmth rise in his chest. "Thank you. That means more than I can say." She smiled, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "Perhaps that is why I call you husband. Not because of ceremony nor jest, but because your qualities remind me that humans can achieve greatness even in worlds not their own." Alex's mind raced. The bond between them was growing stronger, undeniable yet complicated. Being called husband was no longer just a title. It carried weight, expectation, and something more personal: trust, admiration, and perhaps affection. As they walked through the gardens, Alex realized that his role in the palace had shifted. He was no longer just an engineer, nor merely a human outsider. He had become a part of the Queen's inner circle, trusted, valued, and perhaps even needed. The days continued with training, strategy, and the occasional diplomatic visit. Each interaction with Lyra tested Alex's ingenuity, courage, and diplomacy. Yet through it all, the Queen's trust never wavered, and her playful yet sincere use of the word husband became a constant, a reminder that he was more than a visitor in this world. By the end of the week, Alex stood in the palace balcony again, gazing at the city lights. Hover vehicles moved in patterns he had come to admire, alien citizens passed in silent efficiency, and the palace itself seemed alive with energy and purpose. He realized that life in the palace at the side of a queen who trusted him had become something extraordinary. A human had earned a place among aliens, not through force or conquest, but through skill, courage, and integrity. And as he thought of Lyra, her words, and her unwavering gaze, he understood that the title she gave him, husband, was no longer just a curiosity or joke. It was a challenge, a bond, and perhaps the beginning of something far greater than either of them could have imagined. For the first time since arriving on this alien world, Alex felt not like a stranger, but like someone who belonged, someone whose actions, character, and courage had earned respect in a galaxy that had never expected a human to rise so high. And as he turned back toward the palace halls, ready to face the next challenge, he knew one thing for certain. Whatever lay ahead, he would meet it not just as an engineer, but as the human the Queen called husband. The palace had settled into a rhythm since Alex's arrival. Warriors trained with new vigor, advisors consulted him cautiously, and Queen Lyra seemed more at ease with a human by her side. Yet beneath the surface, tensions simmered. Not all of Lyra's council had embraced his presence, and whispers of dissent reached even Alex's ears. One morning, the palace erupted in urgent activity. Scouts had returned from the outer territories with alarming reports. A rival faction was mobilizing near the border, planning an incursion into Lyra's domain. The Queen's face, usually composed, betrayed a flash of concern. Alex observed her closely, noting the way her eyes narrowed, the tension in her shoulders, and the swift calculations crossing her mind. "You will stay with me during this," Lyra said, voice firm yet calm. "I trust your judgment." Alex nodded, hiding the nervous beat of his heart. This was no longer a drill. Lives would be at stake, and the Queen had placed trust in a human, the likes of which her enemies likely would not have expected. He moved to the strategy room, a vast chamber filled with glowing holograms of star systems, battle plans, and terrain maps. Lyra stood at the center, analyzing troop positions. "They are testing our defenses," she said. "If we fail, the outcome will be catastrophic." Alex studied the holograms, tracing the movements of enemy units with his fingers. "Their pattern is predictable," he said. "They rely on speed and surprise, but their communication is rigid. If we create controlled diversions and modify our formation slightly, we can force them into mistakes." Lyra's gaze sharpened. "Explain." Alex pointed to specific troop paths. "If your forces appear weaker on the flanks, they will commit their strongest units there. Meanwhile, we strengthen the center with modified armor and tactical positioning. Their speed will turn against them." The Queen studied him, then nodded slowly. "Your plan is bold, human. Many would call it reckless." "Perhaps," Alex admitted, "but it maximizes our advantage and uses their assumptions against them. I've tested it in simulations, and it works." Lyra's eyes glimmered with approval. "Very well. We shall implement your strategy. I will follow your guidance, but know this: failure is not an option." The following days were tense. Alex oversaw adjustments to armor, weapons, and formations. He worked closely with the warriors, teaching new techniques that combined human agility concepts with alien combat methods. At first, some soldiers resisted, reluctant to deviate from centuries of tradition. But as Alex demonstrated the effectiveness of his methods, skepticism gave way to respect. Lyra remained at his side, observing quietly, occasionally offering input. Each day, the bond between them strengthened. She called him husband more often now, in moments of private acknowledgement, a word that carried weight, trust, and something deeper. Alex, though initially unsure how to respond, began to understand that it was more than a title. It was recognition of his place beside her. One evening, as the two reviewed troop placements in the glowing light of the strategy room, a sudden alert sounded. Enemy scouts had crossed the border earlier than expected. Lyra's face hardened. They are moving faster than anticipated. We must act immediately. Alex leaned over the hologram, analyzing the incoming units. We can use the terrain to our advantage. The narrow passes will slow their forces, and with reinforced armor in key positions, we can channel them where we want. Lyra nodded. Prepare the squads. I want you at the front lines with me. Your presence will be invaluable. The battle that followed was intense. Laser fire streaked across the landscape, armored warriors clashed, and Alex moved among them, issuing commands, repairing damaged suits, and adjusting weapon systems on the fly. His human adaptability, thinking quickly under pressure, proved invaluable. Lyra fought with precision and strength, her repaired armor responding flawlessly to her movements. When a squad of enemy units attempted to flank her position, Alex had anticipated it, redirecting forces to intercept. His instructions allowed the Queen to remain in control, striking decisive blows without being overwhelmed. At one critical moment, a powerful enemy leader broke through the outer defenses, charging directly at Lyra. Without hesitation, Alex acted. He activated a modification he had made to her armor earlier, a reinforcement mechanism that absorbed impact and redistributed kinetic energy. The blow that could have injured the Queen was neutralized, and she countered with a swift strike, incapacitating the attacker. The battle ended with Lyra's forces victorious. Soldiers cheered, and even the skeptical council members acknowledged Alex's contribution. The Queen, her armor slightly scuffed but shining under the sun, approached him. "You saved my life today," she said quietly. "Not just with your skill, but with your courage." Alex shook his head. "I only did what was necessary, Your Majesty. You would have done the same for me." Lyra's emerald eyes softened, and she placed a hand on his shoulder. "Perhaps. Yet I do not see many humans who would act as you did. That is why I continue to call you husband. Because in my eyes you have proven yourself beyond skill. You have proven your worth as an equal, as a partner." For Alex, the words resonated deeply. He had come to this alien world to repair armor and survive. Now, he realized that his actions, courage, and integrity had earned him something he had never imagined, a place beside a queen, trusted and valued. The following weeks were filled with preparation for potential threats, diplomacy with neighboring factions, and continued training of the palace warriors. Alex's influence grew subtly but steadily. He was no longer just an engineer or a human visitor. He was a strategist, a problem solver, and an indispensable advisor. Despite the rising tension outside the palace walls, Alex found moments of calm with Lyra. They would walk in the gardens at night, discuss star systems, or simply observe the city lights together. These moments, small yet significant, allowed them to understand each other beyond titles, ranks, and expectations. One night as they stood on the balcony overlooking the city, Lyra spoke quietly. "I never expected a human to understand my world, Alex. Yet you do. You see beyond what is necessary. You see the heart of things." Alex looked at her, the weight of his emotions heavy. "I've learned from you, Your Majesty. You lead with strength and wisdom. You inspire those around you, including me. I only try to keep pace." Lyra smiled, a rare warmth in her expression. "Perhaps that is why I cannot stop calling you husband. Not out of jest, not out of ceremony, but because you have earned it. and because you matter to me." Alex's heart raced. The bond between them, forged through battle, trust, and mutual respect, was undeniable. Being called husband was no longer a formality. It was a recognition of the connection they shared, one built on courage, loyalty, and understanding. Yet challenges remained. Outside threats loomed, palace politics simmered, and the question of how other worlds would accept a human in such a position remained unanswered. Alex knew that the coming days would test not only his skills, but his resolve, courage, and ability to navigate a world that was both alien and extraordinary. Through it all, he understood one thing clearly. He had come to this world to repair armor, but he had found a place, a purpose, and perhaps even something resembling love. And in the presence of a queen who trusted him, respected him, and called him husband, Alex realized that being human was not a limitation. It was an advantage. The night ended with the city quiet, the stars shining above, and the palace standing as a symbol of strength, trust, and unity. Alex knew the battles ahead would be difficult, but he also knew that together, he and Lyra could face them. Not as human and alien, not as queen and advisor, but as partners in a world that had never expected a human to rise so high. And as he watched Lyra return to her chambers, armor gleaming softly in the moonlight, Alex allowed himself a small, hopeful smile. The queen had called him husband, the warriors had accepted his guidance, and even the skeptical council had begun to see his value. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new strategies, and new threats. But for tonight, he had proven that courage, intelligence, and integrity could bridge worlds, build trust, and perhaps create something far greater than either of them had imagined. Alex turned toward his quarters, ready to rest, but also ready to continue proving himself, to the queen, to the palace, and to the galaxy that had once underestimated humans. For in this place, on this world, he had discovered a truth that would guide him through every battle, every challenge, and every moment to come. Being human was not a weakness. It was a strength beyond measure. And beside him, whether in battle or quiet conversation, the queen who called him husband believed it too. The palace was alive with anticipation. Word had spread of the rival factions' retreat, thanks largely to Alex's strategy and Lyra's leadership. Soldiers patrolled with renewed confidence, advisors whispered in awe, and the city outside buzzed with activity, celebrating the success of their queen. Yet for Alex, the victory came with a deeper understanding. He was no longer just an observer or engineer. He had become a part of the palace, a part of Lyra's life in ways he had never imagined. Lyra summoned him to her chambers early in the morning. She was already dressed in ceremonial armor, polished to a brilliant shine, the same suit Alex had repaired and enhanced. It reflected the soft sunlight streaming through the windows, casting dancing lights across the room. "Alex," she said, her voice calm but edged with intensity, "today we honor not only our warriors but also those whose efforts turned the tide of battle. You are among them." Alex blinked, feeling a mix of pride and disbelief. "Your Majesty, I am only one among many." "The victory belongs to all your warriors and leaders." Lyra smiled softly. "Perhaps. Yet it is undeniable that your insights, your quick thinking, and your courage saved lives and ensured our success. That cannot be ignored." The ceremony was grand, held in the central hall of the palace, with alien dignitaries, advisors, and citizens in attendance. Alex stood beside Lyra, observing the rituals, the intricate displays of respect, and the presentation of honors. Even the council members who had once doubted him now looked at him with grudging respect. When the moment came for the queen to address the court, she stepped forward, her presence commanding silence. "We honor our warriors today," she began, her emerald eyes sweeping across the crowd. "And we honor those whose courage, wisdom, and skill have protected our people. Among them stands a human, a visitor from another world, who has shown not only intelligence and bravery but integrity beyond measure. Alex, rise. Alex felt every eye in the room turn toward him. His heart pounded, yet he held himself upright, determined to face this moment with dignity. He stepped forward, feeling the weight of centuries of tradition and expectation resting lightly on his shoulders. Lyra continued, her voice steady and clear. You have repaired my armor, advised our armies, and faced danger without hesitation. You have proven that humanity, though distant, is capable of greatness. And for this, we recognize you not as a visitor but as a partner, trusted and honored. The crowd erupted in applause. Some clapped with hesitation, still adjusting to the idea of a human being so closely honored. Others cheered freely, inspired by the undeniable proof that courage and skill could cross species and cultural boundaries. Lyra extended her hand toward Alex, a gesture of both respect and affection. Alex, she said, voice softening, you have earned your place here, not merely as an engineer, not merely as an advisor, but as someone I trust, someone I value, and someone I call husband. Alex felt a rush of emotions, relief, pride, and something deeper, an understanding that he was no longer a stranger in this world. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. Your Majesty, I am honored beyond words. I never imagined a human could hold such a place, and yet here I stand thanks to your trust and guidance. Lyra's eyes shone with a warmth that belied her usual stoicism. Your courage and ingenuity have earned more than recognition, Alex. They have earned my respect, my trust, and my bond. The ceremony continued, but for Alex, the world had narrowed to a single truth. He had proven himself in ways no human had ever achieved on this planet, and he had done so not through force alone, but through intelligence, integrity, and courage. After the ceremony, Lyra led him through the palace gardens. The night was calm, the air filled with the soft fragrance of alien blossoms, their glow illuminating the paths beneath their feet. For the first time, Alex felt able to speak freely without protocol or ceremony. I never expected to be here, he said quietly. Not in this palace, not in your presence, and certainly not called husband by a queen. Lyra glanced at him, her expression both soft and commanding. And yet here you are. You have shown that humans are more than what many of my people believed. You have proven that courage, intelligence, and heart matter more than lineage or tradition. Alex smiled faintly. I suppose I have learned much as well. About strategy, about your people, and about the trust that can exist between very different worlds. She nodded, her gaze distant for a moment, then returned to him. Yes, trust is rare, Alex, but you have earned it. And now, you are part of this palace, part of my life, and part of something greater than either of us. The following days were filled with both celebration and preparation. Though the immediate threat had been neutralized, Lyra's advisors insisted on reinforcing defenses, expanding training, and ensuring the city remained secure. Alex worked tirelessly, modifying weapons, reinforcing armor, and advising on tactical adjustments. Yet in every task, he felt a growing sense of belonging, a recognition that his work mattered not only to survival but to the people themselves. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lyra approached Alex in the workshop. She was clad in casual attire for the first time since he arrived, her expression unreadable. Alex, she began, there are those in my court who still doubt. They whisper about your influence, your presence, and the bond we share. Some question whether a human should have such a place here. Alex met her gaze firmly. Let them whisper. You have seen my actions, my loyalty, and my judgment. Nothing else matters. If anyone doubts, the proof is in our victories and the trust we have built. Lyra smiled, a rare and genuine warmth. You speak as a human, yet your words carry wisdom beyond your years. Perhaps that is why I continue to call you husband, not out of ceremony, not out of jest, but because you have earned it and because I trust you with what matters most. Alex's chest tightened. Your Majesty, I will continue to earn your trust every day, not for recognition but because it matters to me, to you, and to this palace. She stepped closer, the distance between them shrinking. And in doing so, you have proven that humans are capable of greatness in ways we could not have imagined. You have earned more than respect, Alex. You have earned a place beside me. The palace buzzed outside with preparations for the next ceremonial event, but for a moment, the world narrowed to just the two of them. The bond they shared, forged through battle, trust, and mutual respect, had grown stronger than either could have predicted. Weeks passed, and Alex continued to demonstrate his value. Warriors followed his guidance, foreign dignitaries respected his input, and even the most skeptical advisors began to acknowledge the truth. A human could rise to greatness, not through dominance, but through intelligence, courage, and integrity. Lyra, for her part, grew increasingly comfortable with Alex at her side. Whether in strategy rooms, training halls, or ceremonial events, she treated him not as an outsider, but as a partner, someone whose judgment and presence mattered as much as any of her advisors. And always she called him husband, the word now carrying sincerity, trust, and affection. One quiet evening, as the palace rested under the soft glow of distant stars, Alex and Lyra stood together on the balcony. The city lights shimmered below, a testament to the lives they protected and the victories they had won. "You have changed this palace," Lyra said softly. "Not merely by repairing armor, not merely by advising warriors, but by reminding us all that courage and heart matter more than tradition alone." Alex looked at her, humbled. "I have only done what I could. The real credit belongs to you, Your Majesty. You led, inspired, and trusted in ways few could manage." Lyra's hand brushed his, a gentle yet deliberate touch. "Perhaps that is why I cannot imagine this palace, or my life, without you by my side. You are more than a human here, Alex. You are a partner, a strategist, and my husband." Alex felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had come to this world to repair armor and survive. Instead, he had earned respect, trust, and a bond with the Queen herself. Being human, once seen as a limitation, had become his greatest strength. As the stars shone overhead, the palace standing proud beneath them, Alex understood the full scope of his journey. He had faced alien battles, navigated political intrigue, and earned a place among warriors and leaders. Yet the greatest achievement of all was the bond he shared with Lyra, a connection built on courage, skill, integrity, and mutual respect. And as he looked at the Queen, who had called him husband with sincerity, he smiled. The future was uncertain, full of challenges and threats, but one thing was clear. Together, human and Queen could face anything. The palace, the city, and the galaxy beyond awaited them, but for now, Alex allowed himself to feel something rare and profound: belonging. A human had risen, not through force alone, but through qualities that transcended species. And at his side stood the Queen, who trusted him, valued him, and called him husband. For Alex, it was more than recognition. It was a promise, a beginning, and a proof that humans, even far from Earth, could leave a mark on the galaxy that would never be forgotten. And as the night settled over the palace, with stars reflecting in the crystal windows, Alex knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them with courage, ingenuity, and the quiet pride of a human who had earned his place beside a queen.